You're now watching the Good, Bad, and Ugly podcast, featuring Kevin Bunk, John Downs, and Reese Jantz. All right, GBU After Hours episode 3. As always, I'm here with JD and Reese. How you guys doing today?
Got a nice weekend. There are 4 straight days of football coming up, so it couldn't be better.
Yeah, really exciting. Contrary to last week, we have a lot to talk about on this show, starting with the Mets hired Buck Showalter today. Great hire for the Mets. We're going to get all into that. Urban Meyer was fired this week. We all expected it. Finally happened, maybe a little earlier than some thought, or even later than some thought. We had some issues with the technology for the Lock It In show on Thursday. Someone's recording was just
either way.
It just
our picks are pretty much different now anyway because of COVID just ripping through the NFL. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about COVID too. We're going to talk about the great Thursday night football game that we got. We're going to have our friend of ours, the Chargers fan, is going to chime in on the show today. We're excited for that. And we're going to talk at the end about Joe Judge staying put in Giants on the Giants sidelines for next season, which is probably not going to make too many Giants fans happy. It's a little bit of old news, but we haven't gotten a chance to talk about it yet, so we're going to get into that. And so a lot to talk about. I'll start out with my piece on Buck to the Mets. I'm really excited about this. I'm not a Mets fan, but if it was anyone else, it was the wrong move. Buck has no rings, and that's the laziest argument for why you wouldn't hire him. I'm just going to read through some of his career accolades, and then I'll let the Mets fans take over the emotions and their thoughts on this hire. Buck starts his head coaching career as manager with the Yankees in 1992. He goes from 92 to 95. He gets fired. His team goes and possibly becomes the best dynasty in the history of baseball. After the Yankees, he was with the Arizona Diamondbacks. They were pitiful. And might I add, the Yankees in the 80s, it was the dark ages for the Yankees. It was their worst decade by far. They have a lot of losing records. They were great for the first 2 years of it, but afterwards it was a disaster until Buck came and turned it around. Then he moves to Arizona after. He's coaching Arizona. Only gets 3 seasons, 1998, 99, and 2000. What happens in 2001? The Diamondbacks beat the Yankees, knocking them off in 7 games in the World Series. Unfortunately, Buck's not there for either of the teams he built to get their ring. Or rings. He was at the Rangers from 2003 to 2006. The record is not there for Buck. It's the only place he stopped at where the record's not there, but he built a great young core in this farm system. Guys that we'd see a few years later take them to a World Series like Josh Hamilton, Nelson Cruz, and others in that mix. And then he went to Baltimore and totally flipped the Orioles. He got there halfway through a season. They finished the year with a winning record during his tenure, but then his second year, they had a miserable season. So one thing that I love to highlight with Buck is that his first year with every franchise he's with, they have a losing record. 76 and 86 with the Yankees, 65 and 97 with the Diamondbacks, 71 and 91 with the Rangers, 34. So his first season with Baltimore, he goes 34 and 23 for his stretch of the season, but his first full season, they go 69 and 93. He flips their records. The second year, every single one of those teams was in the postseason. This is an awesome hire. I'll pass it off to you guys. I'm really
I'll
happy.
Finish it.
Okay, yeah. So this is obviously a great signing, KB. You worded it perfectly. You said that anybody else was a failure, and that's just a true statement. Showalter has shown that he can come into an organization and turn things around, which is one of my favorite things about him. And to his credit, he has not had a lot to work with. Like with this Mets team, besides the Yankees, is the team that's spent the most, the team that's had the best players. So I'm really excited to see what he can do in his first year with a team that we know can compete for a World Series. And I really like how the Mets are finally switching things up with the managers, including Beltran. Beltran, Rojas, and Callaway were all first-time managers. So now we got a guy in Showalter that's going to come in with experience and credibility and add something to the Mets that we haven't had in a while. So I'm really excited to see this guy try and turn the Mets culture around as much as it already has and see where we can go this year.
Yeah, so obviously Buck was the obvious hire. It was not I don't know if at any point it was ever close, but I will say, to dispute you guys, I do think that Espada and Quintaro, if that's how I say it right, were very legitimate options for MLB managers. I think Mets fans just have PTSD from hiring first-time managers, from Callaway to Rojas. I don't think these two guys were in the same boat. They came from very respected organizations. They have a lot of experience on the bench coach. I know they haven't been managers yet, but I do really think that if they went that route, while people would have been upset because it wasn't Buck, I don't think it would have been the worst move, honestly. Like, if I'm going to be completely honest, I really think that those two guys are going to be good managers one day. But for this team right now, the Mets are trying to change the culture. They're bringing in clubhouse guys. They're bringing in guys that can just restart, because they've been a total mess the last few years, ever since they made the World Series. Last year they had fights in the clubhouse, Lindor and McNeil, whatever. That's not going to happen under Buck Showalter. They went out and signed four professionals who are great clubhouse guys. They're trying to change the whole culture. And hiring Buck further solidifies the fact that they're trying to win now, and they're trying to be one of the most respected organizations as opposed to being one of the laughingstocks in the MLB. And Buck, while he's opposed to analytics, he said in his interview that he will listen to analytics when he can apply it right. He's not going to be a floor mat for the front office like these other guys might have been, or going to just script the game basically the whole time off analytics, which is not what we want. We want a guy who will listen to analytics but not apply it to the right time. You have to have a feel for the game. And Buck Showalter has a feel for the game. He's not like Luis Rojas, who's managing the game basically strictly from a computer. That's what it was. He was making moves. He was taking out guys when they shouldn't have been. He had no feel for the game. Buck Showalter changes the whole dynamic of this team, the whole dynamic of the way they're run, and this is a big signing for Steve Cohen, who is really going for it this year, and they're going to continue to build this coaching staff. They're going to build it right because they have time for the lockout, and then after the lockout's over, they're going to go right for more personnel guys like Chris Bryant. They're going to make this team better, even though they have had the best offseason of any team so far. Buck Showalter was the obvious hire, and he's going to make this team so much better. But I also do think that Espada and Quintara will be good managers somewhere someday, and one of them might even get the job in Oakland.
Yeah.
For all we know,
JD,
because Espada was in it. He was interviewed.
Yeah, and unfortunately, if you get the job in Oakland, you're probably only the last
the Oakland job is much worse.
That's not your fault. You know what? Another point about Buck, and JD, you went into it with the analytics and everything, and running the game from the computer. There's teams that underachieve, and I'm going to point out the Yankees for this. Yes. Aaron Boone is an extension of the front office. He's the front office in the dugout. And it's all Brian Cashman's show, and that's the new age of baseball. It's where a lot of teams are going. I think that's what the Mets were trying to do when they got rid of Terry Collins. And, Terry might have ran his course, but that's what I think Mickey Callaway was. I think Rojas was that, even though Rojas kind of wasn't supposed to be the manager. But I'm really happy that they made this move, because it's not losing games on analytics anymore. You're losing a game because, like the last game that Buck managed, they lose to Toronto on a walk-off. Yep. It was that Encarnacion walk-off, if you remember, because he didn't put Zach Britton in, and he held him out until potential extra innings. Analytics tell you put Zach Britton in like the 8th inning. And Buck sees the game and calls the game how he sees it. He's forgotten more baseball than most managers in this league know. So the Mets just added the second-best pitcher in baseball to a staff that already had the best pitcher in baseball, and quite possibly the best manager in the MLB in the span of one offseason. Grand slam offseason for Steve Cohen after what a lot of fans thought was a disappointing.
And I just wanted to say, in my opinion, I think Showalter was the absolute best, because if you look at this Mets, Mets roster, I mean, you don't need a genius you don't need a great manager to be able to manage this team well. And I think adding Showalter with a guy with experience, I think it was the best option, instead of going with these guys who might make some stupid decisions in their first year when they don't really know exactly what they're going to do with the team yet. And I think Showalter is just... Go ahead.
You mentioned, KB, I just want to say you mentioned the Britton move, and that stuff's going to happen, too. You're going to miss...
You can't win them all.
It happens during games. You're going to miss during the game on moves that you think are right, and I just like how Buck Showalter is one of the smartest men in baseball, and he has a feel for the game. So whatever decision he makes, there is a good, solid reason behind what he's doing, and it's not just a computer telling him to go, take Jacob deGrom out in the 5th inning because he has 80 pitches. That's not going to happen under Buck Showalter.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, one more point that I want to make is, I don't know if it disputes Reese's or not, but I think they really needed, and I mean, JD, it kind of goes to what you said, they needed a guy like this because the amount of crap
it was disgusting
from this team last year, Lindor and Baez thumbs down, fighting in the clubhouse. This is an embarrassment. Francisco Lindor, I know you guys have high expectations and love him.
Bad.
He was, from the eyes of someone on the outside, and I really wanted him to be in pinstripes in the Bronx in last offseason. I really wanted Lindor. Am I upset you guys got him? Don't care. Wasn't Boston, wasn't Tampa.
Yeah.
I don't really care. You guys know how I stand with that.
He was.
But
he wasn't good.
He was an embarrassment last year. And I'm at the point with him where, based on his personality, I don't think he's going to last in New York. But Buck being the manager changes my mind a lot on that, because he's going to get these guys in line. It's like Dusty Baker. He's running the military camp now. You're not. Yeah. It's not Mickey Callaway coming in this press conference. We're gonna love everybody here. That was a joke. The second Mickey Callaway started loving everybody was the second you knew that his tenure was done. So Buck, absolutely awesome. I'm so excited to watch Mets baseball.
Yes.
I will be in Citi Field seats this season. I'm watching Scherzer, hopefully in the Friday Night Blacks, seeing Showalter. I am so excited to see what the Mets do. I think the Mets are my favorite team in the NL East now, with the hire of Buck.
Let's see.
And the Braves won the World Series.
Speaking of the Braves, they still got to re-sign Freddie Freeman. Like, I don't know what they're doing, but obviously they're going to get Acuna back at some point throughout the season. I don't think he's going to be ready opening day. But the NL East is open for the Mets to go take it. Even though the Braves did just win the World Series, if the Mets keep building, they've made all the right moves. They've made the right managerial moves. They made the right personnel moves. They made the right front office moves so far. Hopefully, Billy Epler looks like he's going to be a real solid GM in New York with the resources that Steve Cohen gives him. It looks like Steve's really it's like he's just changing the way that the Mets are perceived now. Until they make the playoffs, it's still going to be LOL Mets until they do that, because the Mets obviously they've had good off seasons before where people are like, oh, this team's going to win the division. For example, last year I was so excited for the Mets. Now obviously I'm more excited this year than I was last year because the off season is just completely different. But it's still LOL Mets until further notice. We have to do something this year. But hiring Buck Showalter further proves the fact that the Mets are going to be one of the more respected franchises in baseball as long as they can just win baseball games, make the playoffs this year. It really is the no-brain hire, although I did like the other two candidates. I don't think it would have been the end of the world if they got hired, but Buck was the move. Yeah. He was the clear-cut favorite from day one, and Steve Cohen interviewed him last night. He was hired this morning. That tells you all you need to know. The interview went
he's
great.
A culture changer, and that's exactly what the Mets needed. It was the one thing they were really lacking besides players.
Yeah. I'm really hoping
we
that Buck gets his ring with the Mets, and that
this is probably the last stop for Buck.
I'd assume so.
He's got to.
I really hope so. But I want to see some really good baseball from the Mets. Bring back baseball. I don't want to see this Yankees garbage, which is not going to come with Buck, which is what the Mets were trying to do last year.
They were doing that with McNeil, man.
Playing the game with analytics. I want to see guys bunting. I want to see guys stealing. Move guys over. Play small ball. And with the guys that they added this offseason, like Marte, like Escobar, I fully expect that to be the case with this team. Get Jeff McNeil back to what he was. Guys like Nimmo just knocking flares into left field, going the other way with the ball. Just really nice small ball baseball. That's what I'm looking for. And you got two starters that, with the lineup they have, obviously they're not going to win every game they pitch, but with the lineup they have, that DeGrom stuff from the last 3-4 years where he goes out and throws 7 innings, 1 run, 2 runs, and loses games, it should not happen anymore.
Yeah.
You should get 40 wins out of your 1 and 2 this year, pending their health.
I can't, we're stressing this, this is such a good move, and like you said, there was no one helping Lindor last year. The coaching staff was totally incompetent. They fired Chili Davis 3 weeks into the season when he was a very good hitting coach the year before, and they hired Hugh Quattlebaum, who did nothing but try to emphasize launch angle and analytics, and it was the worst thing for Lindor, for McNeil, for everybody who was struggling. Dom Smith had one of his worst years, although he still hit for good average. He couldn't hit a ball out of the park. He had no power. Nimmo and Alonso were really the two only guys who achieved what they were supposed to going into the season. Everyone else underachieved. That's not going to happen under Buck Showalter. They're going to put the right guys in place, and they're going to fix. Like, this is a make or break year for Lindor.
Yep.
This is like, he's got to bounce back.
Yeah, one more point for me, and two more actually. I think you'll see improvement. I could stress my concerns 3 weeks ago when the Mets had their big free agency shopping spree. Express my concerns with the bullpen. I think the bullpen they have now still doesn't get it done, but will be better. And like a Barry Trotz effect, his first year with the Islanders, you will see them at their maximum potential.
And that's what they need.
Properly, they'll practice properly, they'll be trained properly, and also Pete Alonso was the best player on the Mets last year in that lineup, but he was also maybe the easiest
pitch
out
him correctly,
at times.
yeah.
It was
High fastball.
He had that high fastball issue. I tell you what, I'd be shocked if he gets struck out on that high fastball like he did last year. I think expect situations like that to be improved greatly also with the coaching staff, because now they are going to work him so hard on that high fastball, because he was great at hitting the off-speed stuff last year, but that's the type of stuff that a manager like Buck is going to really help this team out with. I can see over 100 wins for the Mets next year.
Yeah, and with this coaching staff, there's two guys I'm really looking for to blossom. I'm looking for McNeil to get back to where he was. Stop thinking about the stupid swings that Rojas put in his fucking mind. And I'd really like to see Showalter use Trevor May, because when Trevor May came in at the right spots with it, he was good, zipping his fastball, and he's got a really nice slider. So I think if he's throwing him in the right positions, Trevor May's going to have a really good season too.
Yeah, I've got two more things to say, KB. You mentioned how Pete was was hitting the off speeds well, but couldn't touch the fastball. That's the same thing with Dom Smith. In 2020, Dom Smith was one of the best fastball hitters in baseball, and in 2021, all he could hit was an off speed, and for some reason could never hit a fastball. That's not going to happen this year. If we still have Dom Smith come opening day, look for him to also have a huge bounce back year. And then going to the bullpen, they're right now, yes, they still need a lefty. They still probably need another righty. They still need to add. But they have 4 real competent right-handed pitchers when at their best can be real good relievers in baseball. You have Diaz, who's going to be your closer. You have Castro, who's going to be one of your 7th inning guys. You have Trevor May, who's going to be probably your 8th inning guy right now. And he was shaky last year. There was times where he'd come in and you could tell he just did not have it. But if he can put it together, he's a very good quality big league pitcher. And the 4th one's blanking me right now. I feel like there is one more guy who's a lock in that bullpen. It's just escaping my mind right now. But we can move on from the Mets. I just want to close it off with, yes, Buck Showalter was the obvious hire, and this is just further improving the Mets offseason. They're going to fill out the rest of their coaching staff with guys who Buck wants. And then once the lockout ends, they're going to go, because they're not going to stop adding players. They're not done. They may not add Chris Bryant, like I said. They may not shell out another big contract, but they're going to add more big leaguers who are going to help this team win,
by the way.
Whether in the bullpen. Lugo, yep. Seth Lugo, who had a down year last year, but he was
Lugo's
hurt
great, man. Lugo's good.
He was great in 2020. He was our best reliever in 2019. If he can pitch like that, he's another 8th inning guy you can have. They need a lefty, but they're going to add more guys post-lockout, so I'm not worried about that. I just cannot wait for the season to start.
It's going to be good.
I'm so anticipated, which makes me nervous because I was anticipated last year. I was so excited for the Mets, but this is just
very different. Completely different feel.
But this is real. This is real. This is not the Steve Cohen, we made a splash with Lindor. There is an absolute foundation for a winning franchise for years to come. Because people, I know, Mets fans, I'm not going to get into the Yankees-Mets thing, but I know Mets fans we run this town now because Steve Cohen. To run a city like New York, you need to have consistent winning. And to get to where the Yankees have been for the last 25 years, the Mets just laid the foundation for it. And World Series are really, really hard to win. Buck is living proof of that. The guy's
he's one of the smartest.
Yeah, he's great. He's so good.
3 decades, and he has none. So I'm excited to see it. I hope he gets it. Let's move on here to the polar opposite of the coaching spectrum in sports. Urban Meyer, with the 5th shortest-lived tenure in NFL history for head coach. I'm just going to run through the timeline.
It's one of the most comical coaching resumes.
It's actually crazy. Like, I don't even understand how it happened.
Yeah, so let's go. We're going to go way back, almost a year now, January 14th. The Jaguars, after securing the number 1 overall pick, decide Urban Meyer is going to be their guy. So they hire Urban Meyer on January 14th. He's putting together a coaching staff. February 11th, you guys might forget what happened, but this is when you start to realize this is going to be a major problem if you didn't already. The strength and conditioning coach that he hired, Chris Doyle, was the former Iowa strength and conditioning coach. He got put on an administrative leave at Iowa and then released from the program over allegations of racism, misogyny, and mistreatment of players. Meyer said at the time, this is a quote, "I vet everyone on our staff, and like I said, the relationship with him goes back close to 20 years. There are a lot of hard questions asked, a lot of vetting involved with all of our staff, but we did a very good job vetting that one," referring to Chris Doyle. The next day, Chris Doyle resigns because he's the biggest piece of crap ever. So that was not even 24 hours.
Once the draft started,
then,
he was done.
We go to the draft, first overall pick. First overall pick, we take Trevor Lawrence. At the end of the first round, they replaced the only good player. We talked about this on Tuesday's GBU, or Wednesday, now they come out. But we talked about it. They replaced their only good player in James Robinson. You're starting to see a trend here of possible problems with Urban Meyer. This is also right before this. He said that free agency was a bad business.
But this ain't Ohio State or Florida, pal. This is the NFL.
Come on now.
It's
Step
completely
it up.
different.
I don't know what he expected taking this job. It's not college.
So, May 20th, I think we all know this one. We'll remember this one well. He signs Tim Tebow to play tight end. July 1st, the Jaguars get fined $300,000 for misconduct and violations over organized team activities that were not approved. And week 1, they lose to the Houston Texans, and you realize this is going to be a dumpster fire. We go on a couple weeks. He starts getting tied to college programs that are going to have openings, like USC as one in particular. Obviously, Lincoln Riley ends up there, but that was one at the time. Also, Texas last year, right after he took the job. Right after he took the job with Jacksonville, he was tied to Texas. October 3rd is the video.
Yeah, let's not travel back. Let's not travel back with the team on the team.
Cincinnati.
I've never. People within the NFL have said that just doesn't happen.
It can't happen. It can't.
They lost the game by 3 points on primetime with a young team. Really good effort on primetime Thursday night. And you don't fly back with the team because you're going to go have dinner with your grandkids. And they see a video of you
dude, get on the fucking plane. Just get on the fucking
bar.
plane.
She's
what are we doing?
20 years old. I mean, this is terrible. Terrible. But then Meyer apologizes on October 4th for inexcusable behavior. The owner calls him out on it. And we had the Vic Fangio. I don't know if you remember this one. They lost to Denver, and Vic Fangio said that he doesn't know Urban Meyer. Meyer had told him, this just is not like college football anymore.
Yeah.
No
like
shit.
They're playing Alabama.
They're playing a better Alabama.
I don't know what you
expected. A much better Alabama.
But, then we... After that video came out, it just starts getting into absolute disaster. The last 2 weeks especially, they just continue to lose, and Meyer calls out the assistant coaches for being losers, tells them to defend their resume. Then we find out that Josh Lambo, who was probably the second best player on their roster behind James Robinson coming into Meyer's tenure,
he was cut.
Got kicked in warm-ups, and he got cut after, and this is the biggest... I've never seen anything like this by a head coach. This makes Adam Gase look
You know what I saw today, though, KB, that makes me feel like a whole lot better about this situation is that they're not going to have to pay the rest of his contract.
Fuck you, Urban.
Golden.
Fuck you.
Probably not, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'd assume he gets some sort of settlement for a couple million, but that 60, 70 million that he's owed, he's not getting. I believe it was like 5 or 6 years for 60 million. And so he's not getting that, which I love, because I even said on Tuesday, I thought Meyer was kind of going on this downhill path so that he could get fired and get paid without being released and without having to resign and not getting the money he's owed. But I'm curious, do you guys think that this is the end for Urban?
I think it's got to be his end. I mean, maybe college football, but there is no chance this guy's ever getting a job in the NFL ever again.
Yeah, not in the NFL.
No chance. But I do want to comment and say Trevor Lawrence is handling this like an absolute vet. And that Trevor Lawrence, I have all my respect to Trevor Lawrence. He has handled it so well, dealing with all of this shit. He just sits up there with a straight face and tells everyone how it is. He just said it brought clarity, and they're going to go out there and try and finish the season out strong. He's talking like a vet. I'm really excited to see what he can do with a head coach that isn't Urban Meyer.
Unfortunately, even though Urban Meyer was bad, the Trevor Lawrence has looked like, I know he hasn't had help, but he's been bad.
No, he hasn't been good.
It's been ugly. Obviously, he was supposed to be a generational talent. We're not giving up on him after a failed Urban Meyer tenure. He's gonna get the whole next season before I'm ready to even judge him whether he's a bust or not. I want to say, to answer your question, KB, I saw this the other day at a question whether he'd get another college job, and I really don't know. I think a school out there would give him a job just because of his college resume is very good, and he's a proven college coach, not an NFL coach, as we know. I just don't. Does Urban want to do it even more? It feels like he's kind of. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a tough question. It's a good one. It's a tough one because I don't know whether a college would give him a 5-year contract with that kind of money like he did with the Jags, or if Urban would even go out and coach again. I'm just not even sure.
It's tough because I think that, as far as a college coach goes, Urban's he seems really good, but he's also at Ohio State. I just, the 70% of being a college football coach is being a good recruiter.
Yeah.
I feel like this would just
it hurts everything.
Status a lot.
He was trying to coach the Jags like he was coaching kids in college. Those are not kids. Those are grown men who you have to hold a locker room for. Like that. Those are grown men who were laughing him out of meetings after his apology. That was so weak. He was just getting laughed out of meetings.
Oh, yeah. And they're doing their call at practice, and they bring it in as grind on 3.
That was
they're all laughing afterwards. It just doesn't get any more comedic than this year.
This was the only route. I'll say this was the only route for Shad Khan and the Jags, because who realistically was going there in free agency if Urban Meyer was the coach? You're not getting anybody.
Yeah, no.
There's no way that they could go into the offseason with Urban Meyer as their head coach again. This was the only move they could make.
It's almost like Jacksonville's in that point of you're just never going to be good. I know they had the AFC Championship a few years ago, but that was an exceptional defense that they had. That was like a Belichick level defense that they had that year with just talent at every position. And Bortles and Fournette really played over there.
Fournette carried them through the playoffs that year.
But Bortles played. He did, but they beat a great Pittsburgh team. That was just a weird team. But
they haven't had a winning season other than that in the last 15 years, I want to say. That's what I was going to ask you. I really personally like Byron Leftwich, honestly. Former Jags player.
I like
former Jags player
Leftwich.
It just feels like it fits. He's been coaching Tom Brady the last 2 years. He's a great offensive mind. I feel like that's what they need for Trevor Lawrence. I like Bieniemy. Does Bieniemy want to go to Jacksonville? Because he's been very hesitant to leave.
Yes.
I know a lot of teams haven't really offered him a head coaching job, but he's been content staying in Kansas City waiting for the right job.
I really like Bieniemy.
Yeah, I don't know who. I agree with JD. I don't know who has offered Bieniemy, if anyone, but it seems like, just take last offseason, for example. Jets were pretty locked in with Saleh. That didn't seem like it was ever going any other direction. Falcons were pretty locked in with Arthur Smith. But unless a team like the Chargers,
he's content with New England.
It seemed like he wasn't.
I think Byron Leftwich would go to Jacksonville. 1, because he was a former player there. 2, I think it's a good opportunity because it may not be the most attractive job. They've been a dysfunctional organization, but you are coming into a team who thinks that they have their franchise quarterback. And if you really think that you can turn around Trevor Lawrence, I feel like it's just a match made in heaven. There's a lot of other guys I could see. I've seen people campaigning for Jim Caldwell. I don't think that's going to happen. While I do think Jim Caldwell's a very respected coach and he's a good one, I doubt he goes to Jacksonville or Jacksonville goes to him. I don't know. I'm very interested to see. I want to say after we recorded last Tuesday, the NFL changed their protocols and other rules, so teams like the Jaguars can actually interview coaches towards the end of the regular season during week 17 and 18 now, instead of having to wait until after the playoffs.
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting offseason for Jacksonville because I don't see him getting many new pieces through free agency. I only see him doing it through the draft. Only situation that they would be able to is like, this is not going to happen. This is the 0.001% happens in a different universe. Sean Payton, caliber coach, or like Pete Carroll,
yeah, no way.
Yeah, no
out and goes to Jacksonville. It's just not going to happen. So they're in an absolute disaster.
Good riddance, Urban.
You guys are all good with that. I don't know if you have any more to say about Urban Meyer. Let's move to a great Thursday night game. We'll have Drew on the phone in a few minutes. Chargers lost in overtime to the Chiefs, but I mean they put up a great fight all game. Kind of a lot of blown opportunities there. They left 9 points on the board with Staley being aggressive. Final score was 34-28, and they had a chance of getting first place in the division. Now they're in a dogfight for the last wild card spot because that's just how the AFC is working right now. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this game, and then we're going to get some from an actual Chargers fan, which is really hard to find. So, we searched for a couple weeks to find a Chargers fan.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch too much of this game, but if Staley, there's one thing we've learned, dude, you got to take the points, man. Just take the points and you probably win this game. So I don't really have that much else to say. I was on the under in this game. I really liked it, but there was nothing much for me to say about this game.
I don't hate the style of going for it on fourth down.
No, me neither, but it's too much.
Just, when you're in a divisional game in a battle for the AFC AFC West like they are, because the Chargers win this game, they flip the whole landscape of the AFC playoff picture. They move right into the 1-2 seed, and it just changes everything. They have the tiebreaker against Kansas City. I think you take the points in that situation. We're going to hear from someone who thinks the opposite and likes going for it on fourth down. So I'm interested to hear that perspective. I do like going for it on fourth down. So, I just think in a game like this, against your rival, the Chiefs, playing for the division, I feel like taking points is necessary. But I do understand going for it and having to put the foot on the gas against a team like the Chiefs because they can explode.
No, I absolutely understand going for it on fourth, but Staley's made this mistake. It's lost them games. Like, you just got to take the points. Try taking the points one time because they don't.
If I'm Brandon Staley, though, it's like this is the game for me to not try taking points because I'm looking at the other sideline at Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I'm saying I take 3 here. They're just going to put up 7. So I have to, and they lose in overtime. They went for it 3 times on
and
fourth
who knows what happens on the field goals? Anything
they can miss
happen.
The field goal.
So the probability's there.
Block kick.
Anything can happen on the field goals. Assume they do get the 9 points. I mean, hindsight's 20/20, and maybe Staley's going to the third time next time out of going for it the first 2 and not getting it. Maybe next time Staley kicks it. But I don't hate the fourth down, especially against the Chiefs, because, like I said, and JD, you said it too, this team could blow it open at any moment. And you've been tortured by them in your division. And my issue is
he's going to be
Herbert played a really good game. And Herbert's going to be, he's already a top 10 quarterback, and he's going to be for the next 20 years. But my issue with this game is your defense got so many turnovers. You never put the ball in the end zone. They should have ran away with this game so early. They didn't. And could you blame that on going for fourth down? I don't know, because field goal doesn't get you to run away with the game. Touchdowns are what puts you in a position to run away with the football game. So I think the offense has to capitalize way more on the defensive turnovers because the defense has not been great this year. So in a game like that, when they came to play, they got a bunch of turnovers early on Mahomes, and they just didn't capitalize. It's you know what was brutal, though? And you can't blame anyone.
Yeah,
but
they did get it right back.
Was
so
brutal.
The defense made it play.
They got it right back. But it was just that was one of those moments in the game where you just had to score, and they got stuck.
This game, The Chargers are going to make the playoffs
Cover Travis
because
Kelce
they get the Texans and then they finish up with the Broncos and Raiders.
hope
They're
they
going
do,
to win
too.
probably 2 out of the 3. They're going to lose one of the divisional ones. But the AFC wildcard is so jam-packed. They still have a game lead on the rest of them. So I think the Chargers are in a fine spot to be the 5 seed.
Yeah.
There's nothing to panic about making the playoffs. Unfortunately, they're not going to win the division, which is what they could have done. What they could have done on Thursday, put themselves in a position to do that. But now, joining us now is an avid Chargers fan, our friend, Drew Thorey. DPT, 2 days removed from Thursday Night Football. I just want to hear, what do you think? How you feeling about the rest of the season? We've got a few questions for you, but right now I'm just going to give you the floor.
You scared the shit out of me. Hi. What do you think about the rest of the season? Gut feeling is we'll make the playoffs with our next 3 games coming up. I feel like we'll make the playoffs.
I agree.
I just feel like, 8-6 is like, it's a good record.
Yeah, you got a game up.
It's a good record. I just feel like it would be like a little bit better than that. But hey, you can't get everything. The game itself, we had to be perfect, and we were simply not perfect. There were a lot of things that could have been prevented. The first thing I noticed, the drops. Oh, they were bad. And I get it. Herbert throws hard. He throws hard.
Yes.
But the drops are ridiculous. They are ridiculous. And if Devontae Adams calls home to L.A.
Okay.
All right.
No.
So, no.
I do agree, though, with you, DPT, that if he does leave, that the Chargers have the cap space. They do seem to be at the top of the teams that would go after him, but continue.
Okay, yes. Next thing I'd like to say, not all of it is Brandon Staley's fault. Let me just say this right now, okay? I love, and I mean love, him being aggressive all the time. I love it. If he wasn't aggressive all the time, games like the Browns and the Eagles, we would have lost them. If he wasn't aggressive, we would have lost a couple of games. And I love it, okay? 2 for 5 on 4th down conversions. Yes, that is bad, but the play calls on that were not executed properly. We were in the red zone twice, and our brilliant, and I mean, and I say brilliant, I mean brilliant offensive coordinator, exaggerating, Joe Lombardi, he calls 4 pass plays in a row. Does not even think about running the ball.
Totally agree with you there.
By the way, our run game was on fire, even with like a iffy Austin Eckler. Our run game was actually good for once. And he didn't even think about it. He was just thinking, okay, you know what? I'm just going to throw 4 pass plays just straight on. It's ridiculous. Like, if you're in the red zone, you should at least give running it a shot.
So I got a question for you from KB. So you've touched on you love the 4th down moves. What do you think that the Chargers are missing that might prevent them from winning the Super Bowl this year? Can you think of anything that might prevent them from going deep into the playoffs? Themselves? That's a fair answer.
Yeah.
They do beat themselves a lot.
Yeah, I have a question for him, too.
Yeah, exactly. It's happened a lot. The biggest example, the Vikings. They beat themselves a lot. And it happened. And when they're on, they're on. But when they're off, they're off. And if they're ever off, if they do make the playoffs, it's going to cost.
What's the number one thing they have to do if they want to make a run in the playoffs?
Yeah, so what do you think that this team has to do in the playoffs if they want to make a run? You think they got to run the ball, or you think they've got to be better on 4th down? You think the wide receivers got to be better? What do you think they got to do going forward?
I think, that's a good question. In my opinion, I think they should, I think first off, we got to get some hands. We got to stop the drop rating, okay? We got to catch the ball.
Usually Keenan's sure-handed, but anyone else that you think, you think anyone else in particular needs to step up?
Jared Cook, I hate you. You are you are ass, okay? I get it. You're old as hell, but bro, we did not sign you to a 1-year deal. And losing Hunter Henry yesterday, but this guy, I swear, he will make one play in every 10 times on the field.
Yes.
After that, he's ass and drops the ball heavily a lot. Oh, and one more thing. Prayers up to our second tight end, Donald RM. in stable condition.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
that was
good
scary.
news.
Up to him, who's having quite a good season, possibly breakout. Prayers up to him. He's doing all right in stable condition, so thank God.
And I just have one more thing. So we got DPT, we've got the Texans, and then the Broncos, Raiders. Not sure what order that's in, but those are the three teams left. What do you think? 2-1, get you the 5 seed.
Well, Texas, I can assume that's it.
Yes.
I can assume that's an easy win. Broncos are always tricky, so that can go either way. And then they should whoop the Raiders. So 2-1, 3-0, either one.
5 seed. Do you feel good about yourself if you're in the 5 seed, though? You play probably the winner of the AFC North, the Ravens, the Bengals. You feel good about your chances in the first round? I think you can win a playoff game, in my opinion.
I do too.
All right. Anything, fellas? Anything else you want to ask? One more thing.
Yeah, I just texted to you, but I just asked him what he thinks they need to add this offseason.
Yeah, DPT. So KB's got a question. What do you think they need to add in the offseason if they come up short? Anything on defense? Anything on offense? I know you like Devontae Adams, but anything else other than that?
Defensive lineman, I would say.
Just
lineman.
position
line.
wise, you know.
Interior guys, not as in like Bosa and those new interior linemen, because Linval Joseph is old as hell. Justin Jones is injury prone, and Jared Tillery just sucks. All
right, DPT. I'm very appreciative of you coming on here and giving me great Chargers insight. Some of those things, I was very enlightened by what you said. So thank you for coming on. We're going to have you on again because I'm sure the Chargers are going to make the playoffs, and it's going to be a pleasure to hear you on the show again and give your take.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for another week where we just play like ass and y'all just put it in the bed.
Thank you, DPT.
Alrighty.
No problem. All right, was it
DPT?
Was
thank
the
you.
quality
yeah,
good
that was
or
fine?
It was good.
Yeah, it was actually pretty surprisingly solid.
Hey,
yeah.
Hopefully there's a way
I
we
just want to
go
say,
through
DPT,
one
some
day-
great
one
takes.
speaking
I was
out
impressed.
where-
Some football knowledge.
I was very
He does.
Yeah.
I was very
DPT knows his
I was
Chargers.
very intrigued as to what he had to say, and he enlightened me a lot on what's going on with the Chargers. And I'm like you said, KB. One day, hopefully, we could do this where we can see them. We haven't figured out that process right now, but I feel like that was a good, hopefully, good way for us to make contact with some other people, and hopefully, we'll get some Giants fans on here soon because I know there's a lot of people who want to come on.
Yeah. We'll have Len on next week. Len will be on next week, probably full length of the show. And 2 things to expect for the future. I mean,
Doesn't get better than that.
as
Yes.
entertaining as any human being comes. Expect once the Mets come, hopefully if he's willing to do it, and I think he will be because he's just that type of guy. The weekly DPT Mets
Avid
minute.
Mets fan.
I love him.
He is so awesome when he talks about the Mets. I mean, last year they're getting buried in that 13-game road trip between the Dodgers and Giants.
Mr. Met.
He's got the World Series parade planned still. It is so
He's the
awesome.
epitome of
Mr. Met is the
a
nickname.
good Mets fan. He very much believes in the team. I should have asked him about Buck Showalter
Yeah.
while he was on, but I didn't think of it. But we'll get his thoughts. We will for the Mets. We'll get him on here.
Yeah. Yeah, and Lenny, who's going to be on next week, he's going to be on baseball season every week. He's going to be on. So great baseball knowledge, loves it as much as anybody. But
I'm
I don't know
good.
if you
I
guys have anything else
think
to go off
I think
for
we heard
Thursday Night
enough there
Football?
from our fellow Chargers
I wanna-
fan.
We did. I think so. So I want to just start talking about the weekend here, and we'll get a summary of your picks in a second. But just to note the COVID in the NFL right now, there's currently 151 players in the NFL that have tested positive and are currently positive. That's 6% of rostered players, and that is not to mention the players that are just in protocol for close contact, and they're waiting to see if they do test positive. So really scary time.
It's such bad timing. It's really just the worst time to happen.
It's unfortunate to say,
Here we are.
KB, but it seems like in the playoffs, an asset that a team's got to use is being able to stay away from COVID. The team who stays away from COVID in the playoffs might be the one that ends up on top because it's running wild right now through the NFL.
Yeah, and we had 3 games postponed this weekend: Browns, Raiders, Seahawks, Rams, and football team versus Philadelphia are all postponed. We were going to get Browns-Raiders was going to be today's game at 4 o'clock. But really scary stuff right now with sports world and COVID. We have the NHL it's dominating the NHL, and Canadian teams are shutting down their arenas again. And the NBA, I think the Knicks have 8 roster players for 8 eligible players tonight. It might even be 7. So it's everywhere right now, except for the MLB, because they're currently inactive even in negotiating with each other, because the players and owners hate each other. So they're safe right now, but it's something to definitely keep in mind. And while you guys are making your picks, so much has changed since we filmed a failed episode on Wednesday because of the technology failed us. But so much has changed with your picks, so I want to hear what you guys have. We're not going to go through every game and the lines and everything, but I want to hear what you guys have today. Brief, sum it up, and then we'll talk about them in depth afterwards. So what do you have for
I got 2 picks tonight. I bought a half a point with New England. I got New England at +3. They're on a 7-game win streak, and to not take the points against them would be a criminal offense. So I'm going to take New England +3, and I love the under. These are 2 teams that love to run the football, 2 teams that take pride in their defense. So I'm going to take the under 45 and New England +3.
Yeah, tonight I'm going to take New England too. I only have 3 picks locked in right now. I've been looking, and they're all just so all over the place. So right now I have 3 picks locked in, but I'm going to have more on Sunday for sure. I definitely, though, lock me in for Patriots +2.5. I've had that ever since the Lions came out on Sunday. That was... I feel like the Colts definitely do have a chance to win this game. I will not lie. But I feel like if the Colts were underdogs, that's who I'd take. But since the Patriots are underdogs, that's who I'm going to take. Whoever was underdogs in this game is who I'm taking, because these are 2 of the best teams in the AFC. 2.5 just seems like a lot with Belichick. Plus money, plus points. It just seems like... I definitely see a scenario where the Colts win this game and cover. I just think... How do you pass on Belichick at +2.5?
You have to take it.
I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do that. And I want to touch on the game that was supposed to be today, too. I know it's on Monday now. The Raiders and the Browns. Do I have this line right? Are the Browns -3 again because the game got moved?
Probably. I'm going to check.
I have the Browns here at -3, but the Raiders, when it was Saturday, were -3.5. So
I got Cleveland at -3, too.
Did moving it back 2 days really make the Browns 3-point favorites again? Because the thing, though, you have to worry about, I want to make a point here, the thing you have to worry about, though, the reason the Raiders players and all the players who are unaffected by COVID, their games getting moved, hurts them is because on Monday they have that testing. So the Raiders, if they play on Saturday, have all their guys available. They're not testing for the rest of the week. Now that the game's on Monday, you have no idea what's coming on Monday for the Raiders. They may lose Derek Carr. Knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't happen. But anything can happen in the NFL. They may lose people on Monday that they would have had playing on Saturday. That's why the Raiders players, especially KJ Wright on Twitter, is so upset with the NFLPA's handling of this. But it also is unfair to the Browns, who are testing every day now because they have COVID and other teams aren't. So like the Rams, the football team, the Browns, all the teams who have had COVID outbreaks are testing every day. So each day it gets worse for those teams. But a team like the Raiders isn't testing, but now on Monday, when they play, they're going to have to test again, and they may lose players. So it's kind of just a real mess. I did get the Raiders at +6 before the COVID outbreak even happened. I would definitely take them at +3.
Yeah, I got them at +4.5.
So either way, I'm taking the Raiders. My official pick's +6, but if you can get them at +3 like they are now, go for it. Why not? Although it might be smart in your best interest to wait until Monday to see what happens with the more COVID tests.
So are we going over all of our picks right now? Yeah.
Stefanski's
always.
Yeah, what are we doing, buddy?
Yeah, we'll go over all of them, but I just got to say, Stefanski, man, you got to mask it up, dude.
Triple.
And
you are
I'm just jumping around. I'm just jumping around here, but the football team
+5.5
was
now.
+12.5, and now they're +5.
I'm all over the Eagles.
Just because the game got moved to 2 days? Give me the Eagles -5.5 as long as COVID doesn't run wild.
Selfishly, I'm actually selfishly, I'm excited for this because we talked about it on Pick on Lock It In, which we didn't end up being able to post. But we don't have to watch that horrid Monday night game, Vikings Bears, and we don't just go to the Tuesday abyss of what will happen to me because there's no football on today or tomorrow.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
This is
we should do GBU on Tuesday live while watching one of the games.
We could. It's going to be a different week this week, and we'll talk about it after so we don't consume on airtime, but we got Christmas Friday, Saturday, so this show's going to be in a different place, and it's just a exciting holiday weekend coming up, and for us, it's going to change up our schedule a little bit, so we're going to have to probably come up with some different ideas for content. I was thinking about it before, I wouldn't expect the traditional GPU and after hours. I'd still expect Lock It In, the day before Christmas Eve on the 23rd, but I'm really excited for this week of games, and I had said I wish Stefanski was coaching because I had talked about on Tuesday, and then I'll let you guys get back to
I don't. So, Reese, you're going to take away the floor with your picks. Yeah, honestly, I'm at a loss.
I don't know why. I feel good about a good amount of my picks this week.
Yeah, no.
I've been hot, though,
Please enlighten us on your picks, but this was one of the best boards on Sunday night when they came out 6 days ago. I looked at this board, and I was like, there's 9 games that I want to pick here, and I really feel good about. Unfortunately, COVID ruined it. I'm going to have more than the 3 picks I give out today. I'm going to have more tomorrow. I'm going to try to fit in some more on a post. But also, I think Monday night we have 2 games, and Tuesday night we have 2 games. Those are we're going to post our own graphics for those too. So I'll pick those whenever the time comes. I just want to wait. I really want to wait up until the last minute before I really pick any of these games because it's so bizarre. This is like uncharted territory. I know last year this happened, but outside of that, this the board change of the week, there was just a 7.5 point swing in the football team Eagles game. That's just unreal.
Yeah. Yeah, so before Reese rounds out his picks, I just want to say one more thing about the Browns Raiders. You guys have known that my favorite storyline of the whole year to watch has been the Baker Mayfield saga and what will happen to him going into the offseason. So they have Nick Mullins playing. I wish Stefanski was coaching, so he can coach a game without Mayfield for the second time this year because Keenum played earlier. But I wish, I'm interested to see how Mullins does in the Browns offense.
Me too.
It's just
great.
I don't care who's playing.
So I just love football. I'm so excited to watch Nick Mullins play quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. They asked me if I would have said that 5-6 years ago, and I would think, how has my life gotten to this point of dependence on this league? But I'm excited to see if the Browns can put an offensive game together against a defense that's not horrible in Vegas with a different quarterback who's had success as a backup in San Fran, and it's the same type of system, so I'm excited for that. I think that's going to be a really good game.
So the Tuesday games are going to go on at the same time, but one I saw is not even going to be on TV. I think one's going to be on Twitch like they did last year. They did that for the Niners-Cardinals game. That was really a Niners home game in Arizona because they had that bizarre run where they got kicked out of their stadium. That was on Twitch. I think that's where this one's going to be streamed. But we can do GBU on Tuesday while the football team Eagles game is going on, and it would be just make for some great conversation too. I think
we could.
Before we move on from the Browns, I want to touch on how they're supposed to play the Packers on Christmas, and this is supposed to be the NFL's big money-making day. They're trying to smash the NBA this year on Christmas. Unfortunately, I don't know what they're supposed to do. I think they're just going to tell the Browns, look, you're going to play this game on 5 days rest, and you're going to go into Lambeau. You're probably going to get killed, but we're going to get 40 million viewers that day because it's going to be Christmas and everyone's going to be watching it. So I don't know if this impacts that game.
I feel like it might.
But the Packers are going to have a week rest, and the Browns are going to go in there on 4 days rest and probably get their asses
give me the
kicked.
Packers and the points in that one. I don't care if it's -20.
Yeah. No, Reese, go ahead. Give us your picks.
All right.
Yeah, all right. So let's let Reese round out the picks, and then we're going to get into the class.
So I love the under 40 in the Jags Texans. Even though Urban's gone, I still feel like 2 defenses that actually have been pretty solid quietly, despite their team's pretty putrid play. I love the Bengals at +3. I think, like we've talked about, the Broncos are a team that gets the job done when they have to. I think the Bengals are the much better team here. I snagged the Rams at -4.5 in this parlay. I think they're at -6.5 now, -5.5.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
I love the Rams at -4.5. I think they're going to end up beating the Seahawks pretty easily in that one. I love the over in the Packers game, over 43.5, and I like the Packers -5.5. I don't think the Ravens are strong enough to hold up with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers for 4 quarters.
There's Huntley starting for the Ravens. Or no, that's not confirmed, but it's looking like
Either
Huntley's
way,
gonna start
I snagged a pack at -5.5. Even if Lamar was starting, I still like the Packers. And then I really like the Bills at -10.5. I've been doing some research on it. The Bills, I don't know. I've been shaky on them all year, but I feel like the Panthers are just not a good football team right now. I don't care if Sam Darnold plays. I don't care if Cam plays. They both suck.
Yeah,
so give me the Bills at -10.5. And I just saw the Eagles -5.5. I saw that spread went way down. I think, especially if Heineke's still out, which I believe he is, I'm going to take the Eagles at -5.5 too.
You know, I'm gonna do something I usually don't do right now, and I'm just gonna pick 2 games live. Like, I haven't even thought about it, but I feel good. Like, you mentioned Buffalo.
Love Buffalo.
I was looking at Buffalo because this is one of the games that doesn't have the COVID cloud weighing over it, and Josh Allen doesn't have an injury designation this week going into the game, which was huge. I'll take the Bills at -10.5, and I will take the Packers at -7, and then the other pick I mentioned that I already had was the Bengals +3, so I'm going to take those. But I think I will have more picks
I got one more
morning.
too.
And Monday and Tuesday.
I also love the Cardinals. I saw they dropped down to -11.5. I took them as soon as I saw it. I think the Cardinals end up blowing this one out.
Very sloppy for our picks this week, but this is
tough.
This is one of the most bizarre boards and weekend, like COVID-wise. Like, this is just the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. So, just to get like a better understanding of our picks, check out our Instagram if you're watching this and you want to. It's gonna be on there on Sunday morning.
Always a
GBU
clear
Pod on Instagram. It'll be all out there. So if you want to just wait for us to drop our official picks, because who knows? We may get
the
more
entire
COVID
NFL
cases
could get
today.
COVID.
Like,
We have no idea.
we have no idea what's gonna happen. So.
And like you said, with the rounds of testing that come on Mondays, I just read actually that the NFL will not be testing vaccinated players anymore unless they're in close contact.
Oh,
so
wait,
that was from 40 minutes ago. I did not read the source.
Was an alert from Bleacher Report?
That's nice. I mean, that could change everything.
I'm not 100% sure, but...
Yeah, no, I saw they're floating... Them in the NBA is floating the idea out there that they're not going to test... They're not going to test asymptomatic players anymore. They're going to treat it like the flu. Personally, that's the route I'd go, but I completely understand people who are like, it's too soon to treat COVID this way, because it still is a deadly disease. I agree with not testing asymptomatic players and treating it like the flu. If you're sick, you're out. But I completely understand the point of view of people who are saying, no, we should still test. We should still treat it, have the COVID-19 list. So the NFL is going to ride out this year, but they've got big decisions to make next year because I don't think it's going to go away.
It's not. It's proven that it's not going to go away. So we just got to see. We got to roll with the punches at this point. See what we got.
Yeah. All right. No. So let's move on.
Very sloppy.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Like I said, we'll have it on Instagram tomorrow. So.
Right after hours last week, we found out that, per Ralph Vacchiano from SNY, who's very, very trusted reporter in New York, that Joe Judge is pretty much locked in for next season with the Giants. This probably makes Giants fans more upset than it makes them happy. I have a different stance on it than most people, I think, but I want to hear what you guys think. And the quote that Vacchiano had put in was that John Mara believes that they have their Parcells/Belichick, which is a lot to stay. That's, in my opinion, the 2 greatest coaches in NFL history. So I'm going to pass it off to you guys, see what you think,
I will
and then I'll say my piece.
I'm very mixed on this. I do think the Giants need stability, and they need to stop the revolving door of head coaches that are coming in. To say they found their next Belichick and Parcells is very off. I mean, who knows? Maybe he is. I doubt it. I just don't want this to set the Giants back another year because they have to bring in a new GM, and I feel like whoever comes in should have the ability to hire whoever they want, and I don't know. Mara seems to want Joe Judge because of the stability, but this cannot set the Giants back another year. Like, it really cannot be another wasted year next year because you're hanging on to Joe Judge. That's my thoughts. I don't really know. We'll get an opinion on it next week from Big Lenny. Hopefully he wants to talk about Joe Judge if it's still a relevant conversation, but I don't know. It's kind of just a mess over there.
Yeah,
right
so
now.
I talked about how I thought that the Giants just needed a complete culture revamp and how they should just wipe everyone out. But I was thinking about it more, and if you're going to draft a bridge QB, which in my opinion I think that's what they should do, Judge is a decent coach. Despite his time management, he hasn't been great, and it's been frustrating for Giants fans. But at this point, I don't think it gets much worse for them. Honestly, I think the Giants are at their low right now, and
he's nowhere near like incompetent Urban Meyer.
Like Joe Judge,
the players love him. Like he has
the locker room, and he has a great defense too. So I think I think he could be a guy that could just hold it down for the next good Giants team. I don't think he's the guy. I don't think he ever will be the guy for the Giants, but I don't think there's too much harm in keeping him another year. It's not like this team's going to run for a Super Bowl next year, so maybe let him hang around. And if they like the culture that he's bringing and the mindset that he's bringing to the players, then let him convince them a little bit.
Yeah, so my thoughts on this are very similar to yours, JD, and my headphones cut out while you were in the middle of your statement, so
you're good.
I apologize if I'm repeating. But I like keeping a coach around. I don't like keeping Joe Judge.
It's a very
tough situation.
I don't think, I feel the same way with the Jets. Like, let Saleh and Douglas finish their contract. Let Judge. But I like that, Saleh and Douglas are on the same page as each other as coach GM. I don't like that the Giants are going to bring in a new GM, and if he doesn't like Judge, then
you can't.
That's true.
You can't set it back. You cannot set the Giants back another year.
So, personally, I don't think they make the wrong decision either way. But the two things I will say is, one, John Meyer, stop trying to find Belichick or Parcells. Just stop it, because you're not. There's two of them, and 50% of what makes Parcells and Belichick so great is that they're the two greatest defensive minds in NFL history. They had defenses that dominated everyone they played every week. I mean, Parcells and Belichick shut down Joe Montana and the 49ers in the playoffs on numerous occasions. Belichick, we've seen for 2 decades now, nobody has been able to touch his defense. And even with a lackluster offense this year, the offense looks really good because of how good Belichick is on the other side of the ball and then putting them in positions to win games. So that's my first piece. I hate the Belichick Parcells thing. I really do. Because there's only been 3 or 4 guys ever like that. Belichick, Parcells being 2 of them, and then Bill Walsh and Lombardi and Paul Brown are the guys that are in that.
You can't put Joe Judge even close to that.
Class of guys, it's ridiculous. And so just hope Joe Judge succeeds. Stop putting his name, because that they're evidently trying to look for Parcells. Like, that's been their hiring process, it seems. Hiring a guy like Joe Judge from Belichick's staff, and it just seems like that's been the way they're trying to go. But I don't think keeping him around is the worst thing. I just don't like that he's not going to be on the same page with the general manager that comes in. I think Daniel Jones is probably gone, so there's a lot of changes going around with the head coach position staying the same. But remember, Judge did not draft Jones, so he's probably ready for him to be gone too. But there's a lot of change going on in the organization. You're keeping the same head coach for his 3rd season. I would personally get Judge out right now, bring someone in that I have in my mind already. I'd have to have in my mind already. We know that this is going to happen, though, and I would let him and the GM play out their contracts together. That's where I'd start this continuity trend. But Judge is going to be their guy. And
he should have no control.
I don't let Judge go. I don't let him go prior to his contract expiring. If you're keeping him now, you have to commit to his plan. You have to, because you can't get through next year.
He wastes his season.
I feel like this is make or break for the GM. The GM hiring is make or break for the Giants, because if they're not on the same page, this is another year where it goes down the hill, and then where do we go from there?
It also, I guess, depends on who's quarterback next year. Because if you have a young quarterback from the draft or a bridge quarterback, I guess they don't really have a say. But if you go out and get a Russell Wilson, then I feel like you really have to reevaluate Joe Judge.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you. I don't know. It's tough right now.
Because is Russell Wilson going to want to come play for Joe Judge? Or is he going to say, I want to play for Eric Bieniemy, or I want to play for Byron Leftwich? Is he going to say, he could say that. Those are all points that he can make, and the Giants' hand will kind of be forced to whether we're going to draft a quarterback or we're going to stick with Jones, or everything revolves around the head coach position, I think, for the Giants right now. But they're going to keep him around. It looks like Vecchiano's pretty solid.
This is crucial for the Giants, though. Really big.
He's probably going to be around. This opens up a 2 or 3 year window that they have to get good again, or they're going to officially get into that, category with the Jets, with the Browns, with Detroit, that all those teams have been in. And I mean, Cleveland's now out of it, but you know what I'm talking about. So they're entering that. They need to get out of it with Joe Judge if they're committing it to him this year, or they're going to be a laughingstock.
Completely agree.
If they're not already. All right, I got nothing else, but I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to touch on with the upcoming games. I think
it was a very weird episode.
We just got over the hour.
The uncertainty. And
we really don't know.
We don't even know what's going to happen this weekend. But I thought we had a great conversation about Showalter and Meyer, and a great guest speaker, DPT, today. It was awesome talking about the Chargers. You gave some really good insight from a Chargers fan who you don't really get to hear from a lot. There's not many of them, but salute.
Yeah, thank you,
TPT. Thank you, Drew, for coming on the show. It was good.
Yes. All right, so we'll see you guys this week. We got Christmas week coming up.
Happy holidays.
So we're excited. Hope everyone stays safe. Happy holidays. And
enjoy
the next
boys.
4
Let's
days
go.
of NFL football. And then we get a nice weekend next weekend of football, too. So really excited. Doing quick math in my head, that's definitely wrong.
I think you're right.
I
think Wednesdays are done and Saturdays are done, right?
I hope so.
Wednesday and Friday,
would be the only 2 days until next Monday.
That's beautiful, man. Oh.
All right, so maybe we'll be on live on Tuesday night. We'll see, but we're gonna brainstorm for it and we'll decide. But definitely not.
We'll have some good content for all the games. We'll have probably
it'll be fun.
Individual posts for the 2 Monday games, the 2 Tuesday games, and all the usual stuff we usually do. So it should be a good week.
Yep.
All right, so see you guys next week. Tuesday night, definitely. And make sure to subscribe. Make sure to follow us on social media, as always, in the description below. And thanks for watching.